If Barry Robson has been cultivating a reputation as a manager whose approach is based on defensive solidity more than attacking verve, there was a departure from that narrative on Saturday as the Rovers recorded more shots on goal in a single 90 minutes than they did at any point under any of the vast array of managers who took charge in 2024. You have to go back to December 2023 for the last time the Rovers had more shots in a single game, and on that day they yielded 4 goals in a victory over Partick Thistle. But incredibly, only one of yesterday's 15 efforts hit the back of the net, and that meant the Rovers shared the spoils with Airdrie. It had felt like a bit of a must-win beforehand, but with Partick Thistle unexpectedly going down to Accies at Firhill, the race for that final playoff spot has tightened once again. This is the Oh No 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 podcast. I am Duncan Cameron, and with me this Sunday evening to look back on it all, I have got Robbie Weir, first of all. How are you, Robbie?
Yeah, I'm really good. Had an enjoyable weekend. I took my girlfriend Emma along yesterday, courtesy of the excellent £5 for a season ticket holders bringing a pal along. So it was good. She'd worked with Kev Pareto before, so we had a wee catch up with him before the game. She's seen 3 Rovers games. So the first one was the 3-2 loss and the redemption of Alex Samuels or whatever his name was. Cali last season. She saw us beat here. I think it was 1 or 2-0 last season with the Dylan Easton curling one in. So it was only natural that she rounded it off with a draw. So I'll need to make sure that she's here for a pre-season friendly where we can get that loss out of the way again if she's coming back for another game.
Yeah, I've possibly mentioned this on here before, but my wife has been to one football game in her entire life, and she saw Dunfermline get beat 7-0.
Love that.
You know what I would give for that to be? I'd have stopped going as well.
That's one of my friends. His only Scotland game that he's been to. He saw Stephen Fletcher score a hat-trick against Gibraltar as we beat them 6-1. So he also got to see the indignity of losing a goal to a team that had never scored like a national professional fixture before. So yeah,
so Scottish.
And you heard his voice there. We've also got Blair Hopcroft tonight as well. How are you, Blair?
I'm great, mate. That I'm still reeling for yesterday. What a game. An absolute... I can't believe it finished 1 each. It was just... Yeah, I actually, just like Robbie, I had the missus with me for a fiver, and she even enjoyed it, I think, to be fair. Mind you, she's been watching the Flyers all season, so it's a low bar.
Yeah. It's I say this a lot to varying kind of end points, but like if you watch the highlights of that game with the goals stripped out, but like this is a 4-4, or like there must be loads and loads of goals in there.
Totally.
It was a very un-Rovers like game. It was a very un-Rovers versus Airdrie like game, and everything other than kind of the score, like really. But it was a cracker. That was a really, I don't know, maybe this is just kind of recency bias or me just misremembering stuff, but it feels like we've not had too many kind of proper kind of really entertaining games kind of too recently. So it was a better win. Would have been nice, certainly, but we'll come on to the various bits and pieces that might have gotten in the way of that. We'll start where we always do, with the post-match stuff. We'll start with the lineup and the setup and all that kind of side of things. In terms of the names on the team sheet, it was exactly as we expected. Tried to force a talking point out of will it be Aidan Marshall? will it be Lewis Vaughan? In the pre-match, and I completely wasted time because as I think we all knew it would be, Lewis Vaughan was quite rightly back in the lineup. But I did think there was a bit of a change here. So in the last game, must have been the game against Ayr, we were talking about the parts of the first half. It kind of looked like Josh Mullen was pushing on and then kind of didn't. Well, this one, personally, it looked to me like from the outset, Josh Mullen was basically playing as like an orthodox right winger. You know, where you would expect Josh Mullen to be at any point prior to this season. But a weird formation in the sense that there was no opposite number, that there wasn't a left winger, to my eyes anyway. Blair, what did you make of the lineup, the formation, the whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, I think you obviously mentioned it in the post-match against Ayr, and it was kind of clear that after about 10, 15 minutes or so that we started to do that shuffling round and pushing on thing. I still felt it was that. I still thought it was a back three, but it was like he'd given Josh Mullen license to go, and Stevenson not quite so much. We looked a bit kind of blunt on the left, actually. There was a few times Stevenson would get the ball and there was kind of nothing in front of him, like nothing but space. Whereas Josh Mullen did seem to be far more advanced. But when they did come at us, it did seem to slot back into that right wing back. Everybody kind of shuffled over if they needed to back three again. It was really weird. I mean, it's obviously a deliberate thing. I don't know what. I mean, he talks about transitions all the time. Apparently, I don't actually listen to his interviews, but you guys tell me that he talks about transitions. So I'm presuming this is one of them. That there's some kind of swapping between a back four and a back three, and kind of moving things around to try and get a little bit more joy down the right, which we did, to be fair.
Yeah, sometimes I think, I mean, we're as guilty of this as anyone. You can get kind of hung up on, is it a four, is it a three? And sometimes it can be quite fluid depending on what your job is. That said, it looked to me like it was a four. I really felt like Josh Mullen, more so than even in the game against Ayr, was playing ahead of Jordan Doherty as opposed to just kind of wide of him and then kind of slotting back. And I thought the other thing that stood out to me with that was the couple of times that Jordan Doherty went kind of charging on in a manner that was very fullback-like.
Right back.
In a way, I don't know that you would have necessarily done if he was playing as a centre. But again, with the same thing I've just said about what does it really matter, what you call it. Robbie, how do you feel? What was your kind of thoughts on that?
Yeah, I was all for it, in the sense of you get Jordan Doherty charging forward with the ball, and that was quite fun to watch when he went on that little foray that led to the sort of Eastern chance before Airdrie got a goal. I think that it was a sort of natural adjustment, and I do wonder if it is sort of just going to that change simply because of who Airdrie have got and the way that they play. Particularly, they're patient in terms of their build-up, very quick interchanges. They're less sort of lumbering than maybe some of the sides played before. Say, for instance, you're playing against Ayr United and they're very, very direct, whereas Airdrie will maybe take a bit more time, which again, it's to their eternal credit. I think that Airdrie are a very good footballing side. Barry Robson eternally continues to say that they are in a bit of a false position, and I would say that's fair. I think that you've got to show them the respect that they deserve in terms of just their form and how well they've done. They beat Thistle last week, so we knew that going into this one that they weren't going to be pushovers. And it was, people still talk about the hoodoo that Airdrie have over us, even though you look back maybe 10 years and we've got a far stronger record than they do. But it's one of these ones where, I think Barry Robson, I think he did get it right. And there's a lot of positives that we can take out of the game.
I think that an element of it is it's kind of attack as a form of defence almost, because we know how good Mason Hancock is at left back for Airdrie, and I wonder how much of it was a case of sending Josh Mullen out to engage him in his own half, as opposed to letting him have 20 or 30 yards before the first time you're getting in front of him. So I thought he had a relatively quiet game, and that was part of it. And it will be interesting to see to what extent we see more of that in the next kind of 2 or 3 games. Because I think if you were looking at it from a sort of straightforward view, I think you could claim the narrative of, well, you're playing the team that's bottom of the league, so you've gone, we don't want this guy further back, let's push him up and add an attacker. But as you say, Robbie, I think that would be misreading the situation. I don't think that's how Barry Robson was looking at that yesterday at all. I think it was a very kind of deliberate attempt to try and meet the opposition he was playing, rather than just we'll chuck a guy further up.
It interesting to read some of the opinions of the Airdrie fans just about the game after umpiring Bovril. They're talking about how last season we had sort of Ewan Murray +1, usually Scott Brown, playing at centre half, so they would very purposefully sort of push on and try and cause pressure with that. Again, they had a bit more sort of diverse attacking options last year. The likes of McGill and Podorov are always going to be a handful, and then Callum Gallagher for the first part of the season. But yeah, I did think it was good that just to see again. I know it's Barry Robson's style, but you just see Dylan Easton pressing right up straight away to go with Lewis Vaughan and Jamie Gullen. And I think that did give them. I know that we didn't start the game strongly. I think for the first 40 minutes or so, I think that it was very clear to say that they were. I felt that things were quite tetchy in the stand. A lot of sort of simple mistakes, but they were getting greeted with that sort of frustration because we knew who we were playing against. But then it came to pass that it worked out, certainly in terms of at least getting parity again. So, yeah.
I felt a little bit like we were overplaying a little bit in that way that's quite not frustrating to watch necessarily. I don't think I wasn't particularly frustrated watching it, but you know that way sometimes where it takes you 10 passes to get to the edge of the box and then somebody miscontrols it and you lose it.
Yeah.
And then the other team just boot the ball 70 yards and then they've got it at the edge of your box and you're like,
yes. There
why
was a lot
did
of
we
that
take
yesterday.
so long to do that? And I think there was that. And again, like, that's not having a dig at Airdrie by any means at all, but there was a concerted effort to just like kind of knock the ball long, knock the ball over the top. Don't let the Rovers settle. You know, put it up and force them to play very quickly. And it did seem like, first half especially, the Rovers were they seemed to be a wee bit kind of flat-footed, a wee bit not quite in the groove of the game. And that's where sometimes all it takes is just knocking the ball up. And I think the first kind of notable incident is exactly that. When the ball gets knocked over the top for, is it Lewis McGrath?
Yeah, Lewis McGrath.
Yeah.
And he does very well initially. Kind of it looks like Lewis Stevenson's got a cross in time and he kind of out-muscles him. And then, how did I phrase this in my notes? I chose my words very carefully. Goes to ground as he goes by Josh Ray is how I'm choosing to frame that in a neutral manner initially. Robbie, is that a penalty?
I actually felt in the build-up when I saw it, like in the stand, I thought that Stevenson got fouled, but maybe I'm being a bit generous to Lewis Stevenson there, and it's just been completely out-muscled. But yeah, I think when you look at the highlights, you can see why it might potentially be given as a penalty. But then the referees got a clear sight of it. It's not something that the referees, for instance, like blocked off by any players or sort of caught anything like contentious or behind the run of play. It's one where he's definitely got vision of it, so he can clearly make a judgment call. So it might be that the camera's a bit deceptive on it. These things can happen. Again, very happy that it wasn't a penalty. So yeah, it's just I think that you're fair to say that we were sort of flat-footed, and that's a really good example of it just at the start, though. And I think that kind of that anxiety that you have, just where we'd sort of had that sort of half chance before from Dylan Easton that flashed wide of the post, and then you see Airdrie come in the first attack, they get behind, and then you're a bit like, oh, no, it's going to be one of those days, and that kind of runs into the opening goal.
Yeah. I should say, if you want to talk about any of the half chances, you'll need to bring them up yourselves, because I've left them out of my notes. Such was the number of actual events in this game. I'd have killed for a shot being flashed wide over the last few weeks. 6-minute highlight packages of free kicks being put over for a goal kick. Blair, you were shaking your head there as Robbie gave a very measured response to that question. Take it from that. You don't think that was a legitimate penalty shout?
No, it was quite possibly the single worst piece of refereeing I think I've ever seen. He just had no clue what he was doing.
That's an overstatement, but go on.
No, honestly, like, So, I mean, I'm maybe old-fashioned in this, right? But for me, for one, it's a handball. When the ball comes through and he knocks it on, I think it's his upper arm, not his shoulder. And I've watched that replay 100 times. And the Wraith TV cut to it almost without any lead up. So as it goes close, you see him kind of knocking it on. I was up for handball at the time when it happened, so I'm still convinced it's handball, and I don't see anything that convinces me otherwise. I thought Stevenson was awful in that passage of play. Just doesn't. I'm not even sure he gets muscled off it. He just gets kind of shrugged off, like out of nowhere. And then there's, for me, absolutely no contact at all as the boy goes down. And I mean, I always think you can tell by the reaction of the goalkeeper. And he doesn't even get up and go, I never touched him, I never touched him, I never touched him. He just gets up, like, quite clearly no contact. The referee's standing a yard away from him. I'm maybe old-fashioned. That's either a penalty or it's a booking. I can't see a world in which it's neither. So yeah. I genuinely, I just didn't get it. I mean, I very rarely go into the group chat during a game because I can't do two things at once. I literally can't do it. So I'm either watching the game or I'm texting about it. So like if I'm working or if I'm away from home or whatever and I'm watching on Wraith TV, I'll be in the group chat texting away while the game's on or whatever. But at the game, I'll quite often, and yesterday was a prime example, I finished yesterday's game and there was 150 odd messages in the group chat. Like I hadn't read a thing, but I'd went in at that point and literally just said, what the was that? Like, what was it? Awful.
So, taking it kind of incident by incident.
Take me apart.
I don't think it's a handball. First.
Oh, definitely.
That's the tip of it, actually. I mean, spoilers for the next 13 seconds. I agree with you on the rest of it. I'm not having that as a handball. His arm's out, but it's up. It's high enough that he's not kind of like Thierry Henry guiding the ball in with his hand or anything. I think that would be harsh to give a handball for that. Yeah.
It's definitely not Wanyama. I'll give you that.
Our old pal. 1 minute at the weekend. Money well spent. I agree with you on Lewis Stevenson. I don't know if I'd have used such emotive language, but I thought he needed to be stronger. Muscled out was maybe slightly generous. At the time,
Shrugged.
so I should say, at the time, I thought he was fouled, but watching it back, I don't think it's not a foul.
No, he's not fouled.
And then again, at the time, I was a little bit like, I knew there was nowhere near enough contact to put the guy down in the way that he does, because he does that really terrible technique of diving where he goes up first.
Yeah.
Like, you've got to just Sakatai's it. That's the only way to do it. If you're going to get the dive, you've got to go down. You can't jump first.
No.
Which is what he does. And he does the proper, kicks back both his heels and his hands are out as well.
Doing a hikita.
Yeah, which I think really, except like upside down. An inverted hikita. And I went full like YouTube highlights, 1080p, frame by frame to go through it. There's no contact. There just isn't. He plants his foot and then he kicks his heels back. And the point you mentioned about the booking, I don't know. And listen, the things I don't know, it's a fairly vast volume, but I don't know what the rule is around diving. And whether is it black and white? Is it one of the things they still let referees have judgment on? Because it seems to me like they do just kind of make it up as they go along. Yeah. And it doesn't feel particularly consistent. Because that one to me, I agree with you completely. If you're not given the penalty, well, he's claiming for a penalty. Yeah, exactly. You see it sometimes where a guy will go down and you can almost make the case where, like, well, it's not a foul or a dive. But, like, he's thrown himself to the floor and then turned around and gone, can I have a penalty, please? So if you don't think he's been fouled, surely then he's dived. And if he's diving to win a penalty, that should be a yellow card offence.
I actually don't know if that, because I thought the same thing, and I don't know whether that's what saves him in the sense that if you actually watch it, he lies face down for about 2 or 3 seconds, almost in a kind of I've made an arse of that kind of way. And then when he turns around and sees that the ref hasn't given the penalty, he goes nuts. So I don't know whether the referee thinks he's not claiming for a penalty, and whether it's just one of them where he's tried to get out the way of a player and has gone down. But I mean, like, there's no chance if Josh Ray, even if Josh Ray makes contact there, this is the bit that annoys me about the rule, there's no way he scores there. There's absolutely no chance, because
the ball too far away.
He's put the ball wide.
Yeah.
So even if Josh Ray cleans him out, well, what is he denying? Like, what is he? But by the laws of the game, that's a foul, and it would have been given. So I don't know whether the fact that he's going away from goal is why, if the ref thinks there's contact, but it's going away from goal, so doesn't give the penalty, or whether the ref thinks there's no contact, but he's not. That I just honestly couldn't get my head around it. That was a pattern for the whole game, because the referee was god awful. He was. I don't even know who he was. He was terrible.
Well, this is a very good point, because I think I know exactly why the referee was terrible. His name is Ryan. Can be a referee called Ryan. That's not a referee's name.
I wonder where you were going with that there.
That's not a referee's name.
All of our referee listeners will testify Ryans are not referees.
That's not a referee's name. His
He's
name
the
is
highest
Ryan.
level Ryan in the whole organisation. He's flying the flag for Ryans. And the flag is now burning. It's on fire. It's not doing a good job.
There was about half a dozen times yesterday, though, where, and for both teams, where he would do things. There was one where Ross Matthews chopped the boy down. They were about to break, and he had to do it. Actually, no, sorry, it was Lewis Stevenson, and he had to do it. He cleaned him out, take the booking, and he spoke to him and never booked him. And I'm like, that's a stonewall of yellow card. And even Stevenson did that, thinking, I'm taking the yellow.
Take the booking.
I'll take the booking, and he never booked him. It was bizarre.
It's an eternal frustration though with referees, where it's like any time a centre back is going for a header, and particularly when it's against guys like Aidan Connolly or Lewis Vaughan, they go up and then all of a sudden they just fold absolutely the most feeble way possible, and then it's like, we'll give it to the. I had to explain that to Emma. I was like, just like, the defenders always get favoured when they're going up for headers, and then they go down after if they lose a ball. I was really surprised. We'll come on to it later on, but I was really surprised with the one that with Fordyce that came off the bar, because it looked like there was a little connection there afterwards when they tried to go for the ball, and Airdrie player obviously throws himself to the ground, claps in, and there was no free kick given. But that's further down the line, and we'll come to that eventually.
Yeah, but you can't have a go Ryan.
There's lots of that.
Be a referee.
You're really stuck on this Ryan business.
It's a Radio 1 DJ's name. That's nonsense.
He did not look like a Radio 1 DJ either, to be fair. He looked like a referee.
What a midfielder turned goalkeeper.
Uniform.
The uniform does kind of do that.
Anyway, let's get past this. We're getting silly. Unfortunately, though, the thing we have to get to is the goal. Chris Mockery puts Airdrie ahead. It's a great finish, to be fair. He's not got any time to think about it. It pops up and he really lashed it in the bottom corner. Robbie, I mean, in terms of the overall kind of goal here, where are we coming down in terms of the mix of bad luck, bad defending, just good finishing? Where are you in that mix?
I would go a 1, then a 3, then a 2. Basically, in terms of that order, I feel. Firstly, I think you've got to give a lot of credit to McStravick, because actually it's a very, very good pass. It's sort of like a reverse ball through to Diak, who Doherty gets him almost in front of, and then the way that the ball just bounces up, it sits up perfectly for Mockery. He's got to be in that area to give himself a chance. He's obviously in very, very good form at the moment, and he showcased it. Just a really good finish. Not really too much to do. You couldn't really sort of point the finger at anyone and say, you've got to be doing better there, just with the way that it is. I wouldn't be too critical of the defence. It's certainly not a ball into the box at a corner that we failed to header away, for example. It's one it's a well-worked goal, to give them their due.
Yeah. Blair, would you agree with that?
Yeah, it's just so frustrating. I mean, it all comes from our own throwing, and we don't contest the ball, and then Matthews dives in, doesn't really kind of get a tackle in, and then Mullins flat-footed, so doesn't get to the breaking ball. And then the only person who, for me, does switch on is Doherty. And he's really unlucky because he kind of meets Diak, but Diak gets a toe to the ball before him, who basically just cannons the ball off of Doherty's shins. And, like, fair play, it's a cracking finish. Like, it's the only place he could put the ball where, for me, Ray's not saving it. I think if he goes the other side, I actually think that's where Ray thinks he's going to go, because it's like he almost sets himself to go right, and then he goes bottom left, and cracking finish. And to be fair, Ray gets close to it. But, yeah, just a frustrating, because for me, up until that point, and actually even after that first half, yeah, they'd played some decent stuff, and it was a bit tetchy and stuff, but we'd kind of stopped them. Really stopped them. Like, they just couldn't break us down. They couldn't get through. And then it's just a ricochet of bouncing balls and a cracking finish. And it's one of them you just have to go, fair enough. But yeah, midfield a little bit for me, just not at it at that point.
That flat-footed was immediately, I think, what I said when that went in, was just a bit kind of flat-footed across it, and in that way that, you know, every goal is preventable. There's always going to be something.
Yeah.
But it's all little 10%. I think with
Totally.
it, like, because the Matthews one, I don't think he does anything wrong. Like, he gets, it's a full, basically him and the boys up against both just leather the ball at the same time.
Yeah.
And it shoots across the park. And it could go absolutely anywhere. McStravick then, he kind of picks it out of the air. And you have to give him the credit because it works for him. But again, even at that ball could have gone anywhere. And it runs perfectly in his path, where you say, you then, Robbie plays that really nice little reverse pass.
Yeah.
At that point, I think you can go, well, Fordyce looks a little bit flat-footed. But there's no way of him knowing what way that ball's going to come. If he's just a little bit quicker on his toes, maybe he gets across to block that, but maybe he doesn't. Like, no, it's difficult. And then, as you said, where I think Doherty does everything right.
Yeah.
He is awake to it. He gets across, gets that block in, and it spins across, and the boy just fires it in first time. And you think, you could rerun that 100 times. And I think very few times, even with those same incidents, does the ball end up in the back of the net. But it's credit to McStravick does very, very well what he's given, and then the finish is excellent.
Excellent.
So it was it was sort of an annoying one, almost in the sense of you're like, I'm not sure how much we could have really done about that. Which,
At that
Robbie,
point,
as you say, is...
I was just going to say total flashbacks at Queen's Park. Like, it was because it felt very similar. Like, we went 1-0 down to Queen's Park, and you're going, how have we gone 1-0 down here? And then it was, how are we 4-0 down here? Like, it just, do you know, it just rolled on, and I thought, is this going to be one of those days where it's just going to fall apart again? But, I mean, fair play to them. They did step up after the goal. Like, you can see a real change in impetus for us, which was good.
For all, it was a good bit of play by McStravick in the build-up. Really poor attempt at winding up our fans, by the way. Didn't really succeed in that at all. I didn't see anyone getting overly upset by that. Very funny.
He's decent, though.
Yeah, I would agree.
Tiny. Absolutely tiny. But he's decent. I do quite like him.
Just purely because you mentioned that Queen's Park game, people have been saying it a lot recently. Like, obviously, that was a real freak result. We beat 4-0. They've not picked up any other points at all recently. They just beat us and Rangers. But it's still the thing I keep coming back to is not even the freakish result against Queen's Park recently. The game they beat us 5-2.
Yeah,
and they literally had 5 shots.
Yeah, very similar game.
Yeah.
Really strange. I mean, the way these things happen, and I think you remember them when they happen against you much more than maybe the ones when they happen for you.
It must happen to every team at some point, but you always feel like, that's Rovers for you, eh? It's like Adam Montgomery, a player that they're now slaughtering, has been nowhere near good enough as the one player that comes up pitch and then rattles in a curling shot that's probably going to win their goal of the year. But yeah.
And
You could,
we'll have done that to other teams. Like we'll have had games where we've had 3 shots on goal and scored 3 times, but we didn't. You just didn't look at it like that when it's your own team.
I'm going to tell you my personal favourite for that one, Blair. It was, I think it was Christmas Eve, or it might be Christmas Eve or New Year's Eve. I think we played Hibs away. This was when we had Christian Naddy, and my old manager was a Hibs fan. He runs Long Bangers, which is a Hibs podcast, and he was basically saying what was it? They were 1-0 up, and basically they'd absolutely rode us the whole game, just shot after shot after shot. And I remember sitting there choked with the coke with my pal at the back, like, there's only a goal in this, eh? It's like, they're going to probably get another. But my manager texts me with about 10 minutes to go, and he goes, "You are absolutely getting a goal here." Because it was that season, the season before they won the Scottish Cup with Hearts, were in the Championship, I think.
Yeah.
And then Christian Naddy just rocked up for a goal, as he did at Easter Road. Not the one where he tore off his shirt to reveal a bulging six-pack. It was the one where he was dancing with Rory McEwen. But yeah, absolutely the whole, like, oh, it could only happen to us moment of it all.
Happens all the time.
Yeah.
Aye, that's it. I think that's the thing is again, if you looked back at that game with the 4-0, or especially the 5-2, there were 7 goals in that game, and then yesterday there was 2.
Yeah.
Given the way that the rest of the game went, it's remarkable. Right, well, let's fast forward to the equaliser then. There's no fun talking about the period where we were a goal down. Jamie Gollan got his 4th goal, I think, since his return. Heading in a pinpoint cross, I think we're almost obliged to call that, from Josh Mullen. One of the, I mean, it really is. Like, just an excellent delivery.
Beautiful.
And like any touch on that and it's going in, basically. Rob, do you think that's the benefit you get from Josh Mullen playing a little bit more advanced? Or let me reverse that question around. Do you think we've almost been lacking that because we've been asking Josh Mullen to play deeper recently?
Yeah, I mean, I think the whole goal is born out of it. He's in a very, very advanced position when Lewis Vaughan and Dylan Easton basically gang up on Alex Bannon, who's been a really, really good signing for Airdrie, to steal the ball. And then Josh Mullen's just there. He's out on the right wing, and the ball's going out. Nice and early cross. And Jamie Gollan does brilliantly with the finish, because it's the football cliche of the corridor of uncertainty, shall we say, where he just handles it really well. I think that their fans were raging at first because they were trying to say it was offside, but clearly nowhere near offside when you watch back on the highlights. Very happy to see Gollan get on the score sheet again. But yeah, also as well, just a word for Josh Mullen, because just at the moment it feels like there's some people that he can just do no right with. Like, he just gets a lot of flack online, and it's just like, oh, just fucking shut up. Like, just watch your wished. Like, just... Yeah, he's playing out of position.
My favourite comment was, apart from that cross, what did he do?
Yeah,
like he did that cross, like that counts. You can't just take that away from him. Like,
pick and choose. Yeah, it just seems like just one of those ones where he's playing out of position. He's doing a role. I'm sure that he would rather be playing right wing out and out, but he does it for the circumstances. And yeah, he's stepping up for the cause. And again, we lose that game 1-0 if he's not on the pitch. And we're sitting here talking about how we had about 90 chances and we didn't do anything with it, and how it's typical Rovers against Airdrie. So yeah, give him a bit of credit where it's due.
100%.
And he was,
I don't know.
He was involved in a lot of the chances too.
Yeah,
absolutely. I don't know who else you would play if not Josh Mullen in that particular role. Or asking him. I mean, your only other option really is George Gatow, a guy who we've seen literally nothing of. So maybe he's incredible, and this is real self-sabotage from Barry Robson, but I find that hard to believe.
I suppose the natural alternative would be Gibson, given that he swapped for him in the second half. But again, what is he, 19? Like, it's a lot. It's a lot to put on a young guy. Like, I mean, I'm sure he's up to it as well, but like, I agree with Robbie. I thought Josh Mullen was fine yesterday. I don't think Barry Robson came to Raith Rovers and thought, do you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to play Josh Mullen at right wing back because I really want to play Josh Mullen at right wing back. I think he's got a system, and he's basically got 8 or 9 players who absolutely fit that system. Yep. Maybe even more than that, maybe 10 that really fit that system. And then he's gone, right, so do I play a system that I don't think is going to get us results, where more players potentially fit that system, or do I shoehorn one or two boys in to make it work? And he's made the call, and the points speak for themselves. It is working. Do you know what I mean? Josh Mullen is not. I mean, I don't think anybody is thinking Josh Mullen right wing back. That's the future right there. That's what I want to see. But he's been asked to do a job, and Jesus, is he stepped up? Like, he works his socks off. He runs and runs. He's the most Barry Robson player ever, to be fair. Never stops running. But yeah, I don't get the criticism either. I think he deserves a hell of a lot more credit than he's getting.
Yeah, you do. I completely agree with you both. So that takes us up to half time. Robbie, one each at half time. Do you think that was an accurate representation of the pattern of the game up till that point?
Yeah, we'd had a slow start, but we showed a lot of resilience. You've got to give the squad credit for because we've played so many games against Airdrie where we go into that position to sort of just go out and be able to manage to pull ourselves back into the game. Really great to see. Yeah, a lot of patience, particularly when things weren't going well. Their goal came right after Partick, I think, had gone 2-0 down, am I right in saying?
Yeah.
So straight away people are saying, oh, this is our big chance and Rovers are going to blow it, and it's just a big opportunity missed. So to sort of look, clearly we didn't get the result that we wanted by 5 o'clock, but at the same time it's still better than nothing. And I think that if we lose that game, that we're sort of sitting there saying, yeah, definitely over now. Whereas Barry Robson's very adamant, not over. It's we're still in it. But yeah, I think that it was a very slow start from Rovers, a very frustrating first half performance. The players will feel that themselves, but we did well to adjust to the game, adapt to what Airdrie were doing, and ultimately we got what we deserved with that equaliser. Because if you're getting into those positions up the pitch and you can get a guy like Jamie Gullen in the box, like even over the whole career that he's had with Rovers, like if you get Jamie Gullen in the box, he's going to get you goals. It's the most
strikery goal we've scored this season.
Yeah, it's a very Jack Hamilton-esque, I would say.
It's where he needs to be. Then he scores like that. Then goals like that, fanning about the corner flag.
I thought it was like as far as the first half goes, it was like we did all right. We played well enough, but we just lacked. There was like no creativity. So like Dylan Easton, I mean, we could to be fair, we could probably spend an entire hour talking about Dylan Easton's performance yesterday, because it was one of them where it's just like he cannot play against Airdrie, and he just can't do it. Like, it's in his head. He's trying too hard for me. Like, he just never stops. He was trying everything. Nothing was coming off for him. Vaughan wasn't at full fitness, and you could see that. Wasn't at himself at all. And so, like, that creative spark was just completely missing in the first half. And yet, when you actually watch the goal back, it's Vaughan that fights back to win the ball back. It's Easton that starts the move and pushes it out wide to Mullen for the cross. So, like, there was sparks of it. There was little bits of it. I mean, Doherty's run through that leads to Easton having a chance on his left. He's got the whole goal to shoot at, and he kind of fires it wide. And you just kind of felt at that point, and this is going to be one of those days where it's just like, we're going to work hard. We're going to do all the dogged stuff and all the hard work. But it's just that creative spark was missing.
So, see with Easton, I would maybe disagree slightly with you in terms of like the performance that he had yesterday. I felt that it was his best game that he's had against Airdrie. I mean, I feel like it's one of those ones where if you get a player like Dylan Easton, and it's such a trite thing to say, but if Dylan Easton plays well, then generally your team's going to be doing well.
Yeah, it's true.
He was all over the place in a good sense, not in a bad sense. He was covering every grain of astro, shall we say. Just consistently trying to get into positions. I get what you're saying. He's the type of player that he will lose the ball though. And he will try and sort of hold on to it, and you maybe look at it and you're saying he's holding on to it for too long, he's being greedy, etc. But generally speaking, like, again, that's the classic Dylan Easton trade-off, and we've spoken about it dozens of times, but Yeah, I think it's just a matter of perspective, though, isn't it?
Yeah, just to be clear, I agree with you completely, Robbie. It was by far his best game against him. I've no issue with Dylan Easton losing the ball. I never have. Like that's you know what I mean. You get what you get. It was more the fact that you could see him trying shots and trying. There was a couple of times he just tried a wee bit too. There was too hard.
Yeah.
Like it was more than normal, and you can tell. I mean, the booking that he got, it just all felt a bit kind of. He really wants to get that monkey off his back.
Yeah.
Because he's never had a good game against, until yesterday, to be fair, probably. But, I mean, Megwa had him in his pocket last year. Easton couldn't get near it.
Yeah.
It's just this weird thing with Airdrie that he can't, I don't know what he doesn't he? Not that he can't.
I would have loved to have seen Scott Fleming's reaction for that booking.
Yeah. Petulant.
Yeah, just while we're on the subject of kind of trying too hard, I thought that was Vaughan's problem as well.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Like you can see how much he needs a goal and he wants a goal. There was I hate to keep referencing this group chat that nobody else is a part of, but there was a bit of a discussion this morning about his performance yesterday, and I felt it was a bit overblown almost. There was a bit of chat about he didn't have a good game or whatever, and obviously didn't hit his own heights, but I didn't think he played badly at all. And again, as you say, like the goal starts with him digging back. I was trying to get us to half time and I've totally lost the place. But immediately after half time, Easton has a chance and it comes from Vaughan doing really good work kind of down that side. I felt like we couldn't quite get 4 players to all do the right thing in a row.
Yeah.
Kept doing good bits individually without quite ever being able to put them all together. But I think that I think was a big part of it was Easton trying too hard to kind of get his. I think you can almost see it. You can see the thought bubble above his head where he's like, I can't wait to go and celebrate in front of that.
Yeah, completely. Completely.
And then I think the most obvious thing for Vaughan was when he came off. I don't know, again, feel free to tell me if you interpreted this differently. I didn't get the feeling at all he was raging like at being subbed, or at least not because of that. He was raging that he'd been subbed having not scored a goal. I think he was annoyed at himself.
Yeah.
And I don't think he played badly enough to kind of warrant that almost. I think he did the job that he was there to do.
He was definitely raging. What he was raging at, I don't know. But there was a lot of head shaking.
Physical. But I thought that was more at himself, as opposed to like, you need to leave me out here because I'm playing well. I think it was a case of like, I wanted to get a goal before I came off almost.
Yeah. Because I think at that point as well, when he did come off, we were sort of in the ascendancy, we were getting the ball forward, and you could tell like in the run-up Hayden Connolly was coming on, and you had an inkling that it was going to be Vaughan that was going to be the player that he was going to be replacing. I would say, I feel like as soon as Lewis Vaughan gets that goal, it'll just completely change.
I was just going to look there. He hasn't scored this season yet, has he?
No, he's not. But again, it's circumstances.
I mean, I know he's not played a lot, but I do wonder if that
into the ground. Basically.
Still 9 games to go, plenty of time.
But I do wonder if that all plays into it. Like Dylan Easton wants to celebrate in front of the Airdrie fans so badly, and Lewis Vaughan wants a goal so badly, and it just felt like everything was so forced yesterday that like that natural like swerve that they play with, do you know what I mean, like the swagger almost that the two of them have, it just felt really really forced. And actually I think you're right, Duncan, straight after half time they'd clearly been told something at half time, because that initial play right after half time was probably the most creative we were in that, probably in the whole game actually. That little bit of interplay was really, really good.
Right, well, I'll tell you what, let's us have our belated half-time break, and then we'll get into the rest of the second half. Blair.
Yes, mate.
You're a man.
Yes.
And you have thoughts and feelings and emotions.
Yes.
Are you good at talking about all that stuff?
Well, I try my best, but I don't know. probably not as much as I should.
I'm the same. I feel better after getting stuff like that off my chest, but I don't do it anywhere near often enough. Have you heard about Andy's Man Club?
They're brilliant. They create a safe space for men to sit down and talk about the important stuff. And they do it right across the country as well.
Yeah, exactly. They've got more than 200 meetings across the UK, and it's every Monday night at 7 o'clock, including one at Starks Park.
And if anyone wants more information on it, they can go to andysmanclub.co.uk or search for Andy's Man Club on Facebook. It's okay to talk, and now we're going to get back to talking about the Rovers.
So we do get that that chance, I mean, literally right after half-time, where Easton, it's a kind of awkward volley, almost, where he's obviously did it last week in a much more difficult position on his bad foot, but if anything, I think it just shows how difficult it is to actually hit a kind of half volley when the ball's kind of coming across your body like that. The next thing I've got after that is the disallowed goal. Now, at the time, I think reasonably, I didn't have any idea what had happened. I can't imagine many people in the South Stand did. Have either of you managed to get to the bottom of this, where the foul is?
I would say so.
I think I have.
Yeah, so that's how I feel. I've got having watched it back again in like full screen, frame by frame.
You're really getting your money's worth out of that slow-mo button.
Yeah, definitely. I felt like I needed it to try and come to the aid of Ryan and his decisions yesterday. Right, Robbie, where's the foul in this thing?
Yeah, I think it's the foul on Paul Hanlon, I would say.
I agree.
The guy, he's not going in to foul Paul Hanlon. It's both of them are going for the ball, but it's the follow through that takes, like, Paul Hanlon's like shaping up to almost hit it, and then the follow through just wipes him out. And then straight away, you're like, when you see it in that perspective, I feel like Ryan, to give him his credit, has done a good job there. One thing I would also want to call out, if you watch back the highlights, Jordan Doherty actually probably deserves a lot of credit in the sense of getting us a point, because he actually clears it off the line round a player when you watch back. Like, the ball comes across and he just hooks his leg round to like knock the ball away. So huge credit to him for making sure that we get away into the position. And then, yeah, as you say, Paul Hanlon just wiped out. I can understand the Airdrie fans are probably a bit aggrieved about it, but frankly, nobody really cares. Let's just move on.
The whistle, that's another thing. There's no goal chopped off. The whistle was blown before the ball came back across.
Yes, that's a good point. You're right.
It's not a goal chopped off. We need to be very clear on that. It's not.
Right, just
a foul, just a free kick.
Just a free kick.
Yeah, but as I say, it took me a few goes to kind of look through and watch like each of the people who end up on the deck to try and see what happens. But it is that basically it's like Hanlon almost just flicks a foot out to kind of stab the ball away, move it 4 yards or whatever, and it's Aidan Wilson who ends up, he's the Airdrie player who's down the heat, basically just kind of dives into Hanlon's ankles at that point, and I think the two of them kind of crash together. But it genuinely is a very good spot from the referee. So yeah, fair play, Ryan. Now there's one really kind of notable exception, but for me, I felt like after that point, I don't know if the Rovers grew into the game or if Airdrie sort of ebbed away from it a little bit. And I mean, Blair, either if you've got a theory on this, I don't know if it was the subs or them knowing that maybe they're firmly winning by that point. I don't know. It felt like Airdrie, by hook or by crook, or the game was then started to be played in their half. Would you agree with that? You've got a theory behind why that sort of developed the way it did?
I do agree. It completely opened up. We were sitting in the stand, and I said to my mate, we were talking about like a point. At this stage, obviously, Hamilton are beating Partick. So a point isn't the worst result for us. It's not great, but it's not the worst result. A point is no use to them at all. And for me, it was like they started to rush everything, because there's a couple of times where they're taking short goal kicks. They really shouldn't be. and trying to kind of force the ball into the midfield and actually just giving the ball away. And they got really sloppy, but it felt that almost that same thing we were talking about with Vaughan and Easton in the first half, like almost trying too hard. It was like they started to do it, and they started to really try and force the game. And actually, all it did was open them up a bit, and we started to get a little bit more joy. And Easton in particular was getting a lot more joy, actually, and kind of breaking them down. But that said, it turned into a bit of a game of shooty in, like for both teams, because anybody within sight of goal, I mean, Hancock had the one just after the foul before they tumbled the ball into the net. Hancock had an absolute pile driver. I mean, it was right at Ray, to be fair. And then a few minutes later, obviously, we hit the bar. Then they hit the bar. And it just seemed to kind of... by far, we were on top. There was more chances for us than there was for them. But they could have easily snatched 3 points yesterday. Like, it wouldn't have been crazy for that to happen. But, yeah, I think it was just a recognition from their point of view that a point was no use to them.
As you say, it would have been really interesting to see how that game would have developed had either side scored at that point, at like the hour mark, and just what would have happened at that point. They'll take either of the ones at the bar, I suppose, and then what would have happened and what would have developed. Because
the Fordyce one, he obviously had a really good game yesterday. Do you think it's a bit harsh in terms of like saying that he might have been able to do a bit better because it was a free header, or do you think it's one where he's just been a bit unlucky?
It's an interesting one. I think the first thing to say is that it's the return of the run away a bit and then run back in again.
Yeah,
but
I like it.
It's brilliantly choreographed. They're like Westlife. The way that they move out, like all in one, and then they all go back again. I don't know if it's possibly Fordyce is almost a half step too soon.
Yeah.
And so he's kind of up, and he's having to almost move his head away a bit to then get back to it. I think if he meets it head on, that probably does end up in the back of the net. I'm more inclined to kind of credit him with doing well enough to have hit the bar than be kind of critical for not getting it under the bar, I suppose.
I'm not going to slaughter Fordyce simply because of the redemption arc that he's on at the moment. He's done so well. Like the last few games, he's looked an absolute rock. And I bet he would have loved to have scored that, just in the sense, former club, playing against his cousin, where he left under strange circumstances, shall we say. It was a bullet header, and I think it was a tad unfortunate. I think that you're probably right in the sense of like just a fraction too early, maybe. But
the keeper's nowhere near it purely because of the pace on the ball. If that is 4 inches lower, I think that ends up in the back of the net. Shortly after that, the Barry Robson made his first change. We've touched on it already. Lewis Vaughan very unhappy about it. I think more sort of with himself, and I think unfairly on that basis, than with Barry Robson himself. It was Aidan Connolly who came on. Now, again, we did touch on this a little bit in the pre-match, that he's been used as a forward. And I would kind of frame it in that way. I think he was being used as a forward as opposed to a striker. Very fluid. He was around everywhere. Robbie, I thought he made a huge difference. So actually, in terms of just what I was asking Blair there about what changed in the game and why the pattern changed, I thought Aidan Connolly was a big part of that. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, definitely. With Connolly, he's very deceptive in the sense that I think that you look at him and with his stature, when he's playing up top, people probably think like, oh, it's just a wee guy, we'll be able to handle him quite easily. But he's so nippy, and just with his control, he's just great in terms of like taking the ball, being able to make things and just cause a hassle. He obviously had that penalty shout, which again, it's one of the ones where he sort of, that all occurs simply because he's just putting himself about, and his work rate's like second to none. He's just so good in terms of charging with the pitch. I do suspect that he's probably, in terms of going forward, he's probably less of a Barry Robson type player, just simply by the sort of nature of things, just how Barry Robson prefers stronger sort of like runners. But it's not to Aidan Connolly's detriment. He's such a positive influence for the team when he comes on. And you could see that. I think that just the way that he was buzzing about and being able to sort of create opportunities, be able to sort of get himself involved with stuff that, for instance, Dylan Easton was doing, Scott Brown getting forward, just across the piece, just a really positive contribution from him.
Yeah, on that penalty shout, Blair, did you think there was anything in that?
No, not even a little. I thought it was just one of them. It's anywhere else on the park, you maybe get a free kick for it. I don't think any referee's giving you a penalty for it. Just in the sense that I don't think even if Aidan Connolly got to the ball first, I don't think he's doing anything with it. Yeah, no, I'm not convinced at all.
You really need your cart horse with Siri Williams in there.
Yeah, taking big swings.
The first Partick Thistle game at the last.
Exactly. You need somebody lamping you to be getting that, and I think it's just a coming together more than anything else. I find the whole Aidan Connolly thing really annoying, actually, and it's annoyed me a lot since yesterday, and actually more at fault for Barry Robson for me, because I'm not sure, Robbie, that he's not a Barry Robson player. He works so hard. He never stops running. He's a ball carrier. He's good with the ball at his feet. He never, ever gives up. And he's got a bit of talent about him, and he can shoot from distance. I'm like, I don't understand why he's not being used more. And actually, I've been quite kind of defending, I suppose is the best way to put it, in terms of Barry Robson about not using the substitutes, and he's got a system he wants to play, and fair enough, and he sees the players in training, and Marsh is the perfect example. He's not been used at all, and I think it's because he just doesn't fancy him, doesn't think he's good enough. But for me, Connolly yesterday made a huge difference, but he was rusty. His first touch was a bit loose. He lost the ball 3 or 4 times, not through anything other than not having played football almost at all for the last 4 months. And actually, it's really annoyed me since yesterday's game that, we missed a trick almost. Like his insistence on using Gullen and Pollock, thanks. I have no issue with, because I think it's actually worked really well, but his insistence on using them for 90 minutes at a time, or 85 minutes at a time. And I've kind of brushed it away quite a lot, actually, because Duncan, you've made this point a lot. And I've kind of brushed it away quite a few times. Yeah. But actually, I'm still not convinced about Marsh. And actually, I hold fast that I don't think Marsh is the answer by any stretch. But actually, Connolly, for me, should have been playing more minutes than what he's been playing. And now's the point where we're going to regret it, because he's going to take 2 or 3 games to get fit enough. So, because Vaughan's going to take 2 or 3 games to get fit enough. So Vaughan's not going to be able to play 90 minutes probably for the next 3 or 4 games of the season. 3 games, 4 games, 5 games maybe. But we almost don't have the fallback option of either Marsh or Connolly. And Connolly more so, for me, it really annoyed me a bit.
I think it's really... Well, no, let me walk that back a little bit. I think it's poor squad management.
Yeah.
Because even if, to take a completely different example, right? Say Ross Matthews gets injured in training this week. Sean Byrne's not kicked a ball in months.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Beyond a couple of minutes. So how rusty's he going to be? We're not, especially get 5 subs every week, and we're not using them. And I think the big thing yesterday is I think Connolly maps onto Lewis Vaughan quite closely in the sense of what they give you if you're playing them as part of your front 2. So when he hits the hour mark, I don't think he's kind of sort of in Robson's head. He's not really losing anything. You know what I mean? You're basically going, right, there's a guy who's not going to run a bit daft. Good technical player, and possibly 2 of our best technical players, like the 2 best technical players. So it's quite a kind of like for like swap. Whereas what we've seen up till now, when he's had both Pollock and Gullen, is we've not made those changes for a long, long time because he values their effort and running, or whatever you want to call it, like beyond all else, almost. And the most frustrating thing for me, and again, it happened yesterday, right? Because I think that's a fine argument. And again, I want to stress heavily, the results bear this out. Right?
Yeah, they do. Right?
It's. I mean, look, we're putting points on the board. It's really silly to be complaining about anything broadly, but we've got podcast time to fill. So, Jamie Gullen, right? Brilliant, scored a goal. I think we've all been huge fans of Jamie Gullen, particularly since he came back. And Barry Robson's faith in him has been justified. And he's the exact opposite of what we've been talking about. Guys who look rusty, guys who look like they're trying too hard. Jamie Gullen could not be more in a groove.
Yeah.
He is the embodiment of match fit in the sense of he's at ease. He's not thinking about, I need to take my chance, or if I miss this, I'm not going to play next week. He's just playing football. And he scored a goal and he had a really good game. But everything he's in that team over other players based on his running, as in his endeavour, all that kind of stuff. At the point when he can't run anymore, take him off the park. He's shattered. He's not like the greatest will in the world, and as I say, I really, really like him. He's not a Brian Graham type. He's not a Brian Graham.
He's not a poacher.
I'm going to assume started that game yesterday. I would imagine so. Scored in the 97th minute for Thistle. I'm certain he wasn't moving by the 97th minute. But he scored goals, so you leave him up there. Jamie Gullen's not that guy. He's just not. It's infuriating because there was a chance relatively late on. It was one of his later chances where he has a shot that's saved, and as he goes to try and get to the rebound, the defender hooks it away, and Gullen falls down and can't get back up.
He's cramped, aye.
He's like a boxer who's knows he's losing the fight. Like he's down, and as the play goes on, he's having to properly drag himself back up off the canvas to then try and just get back to an onside position. Take him off. Take him off the park. The reason you've got him there has run out. And it was the same with Pollock. We saw it Pollock previously, where even more so than Gullen, he was in the team for his running. And then his tank was empty. And you're just leaving him out there. There was a point very visibly where Gullen had been struggling and he was bent double, and then he tracked back into his own half. So he was in front of the dugout. And he had a bit of a look to the side to be like, are you seeing that I'm blowing at my arse here? And Barry Robson was like, keep going. Like, it's goose is cooked. Get out, you've got 5 subs. I find that infuriating to watch, if I'm honest with you.
Yeah, I'm with you now.
I think it's a two-pronged
if that wasn't obvious.
It's really a two-pronged sort of part, because again, I think a good example for me yesterday was Lewis Gibson. Now, he came on and he had a positive contribution. He was trying to get onto the ball, do positive things. I think when you see Gibbo get on the ball, you want him to be that type of player that does drive on and try and take players on. And I don't know what it was, but just yesterday, because of his lack, maybe it was his lack of game time, that he's just sort of like, just in this position where he wasn't really willing to sort of like, maybe be full confident and just say, you're a wing back, I'm going to take you on and I'm going to absolutely rinse you. It was very much like we'll find an option, we'll try and work our way through it. I don't know if that's the way that Barry Robson's wanting to play. And maybe as well, there's also this sort of fear of like, okay, if I get the ball and I lose it, they got the pitch and score. I'm not getting back in this team. So there might be that aspect of it as well. You just want them to be confident and sort of say like, okay, I'm going for it. And that's where you're going to get the best out of your players.
That's an element of it, I think. Same with Montague last week. When you only get 15 minutes every 3 or 4 weeks, it's not a case of, I don't actually think it's like as literal as like, oh, I'm not going to take this guy on because this is my only chance, and if I mess it up, I won't get back in. I think it's more subconscious than that. I think it's just the pressure, and as we just said about Gullen, the opposite of just being at ease and just playing. Because even if you're like, say, Lewis Gibson, right? The Rovers are playing really well. I don't imagine he is, driving home on a Saturday night thinking, I should be starting. I imagine he's got enough kind of perspective to look at that and go, like, but I mean, you should be getting game time. So if you're getting 15, 20 minutes every week, I think you'd settle into that rhythm and you'd know, like, well, I'm going to get some time. I'm not going to start, but I'm going to get 15, 20 minutes. And maybe if I set up a goal and I score one, well, I probably will then start. And I just think that, because again, he's another really good example. Josh Mullen picks up an injury this week. Lewis Gibson almost certainly would have to start as a wing-back. Something he's not really done since he was at Queen of the South.
I don't know if it's for me, the bit that annoyed, the bit that's got me on the same page as you is actually the forwards, and it's the sense that it was working, and you couldn't, like, you guys, you were complaining, like, and I get it now, because you were complaining at a time where it didn't matter, and I kept going, but they're still there. Like, Pollock's still there. What's the problem? He's still there. He's not there anymore. And when now he's not there, we're kind of like, right, okay, actually, we're up against it. The Gibson thing for me is a bit different in the sense that I think it's actually more, I don't think it's a subconscious thing about not wanting to mess up or whatever. I think it's actually more what you talked about a lot last season, Duncan, which is when you're not playing your own position and you've got to think about what you're doing. Yeah, it's like he's not going out there and just naturally doing his thing. He's got to think about, right, if I go, is there cover? Am I the cover? Have I got to fall back in? So I think there's an element of not overthinking, but having to think about what he's doing. And where the central midfield is concerned, as much as I agree with you with the Burn thing, and it's getting a bit weird. I don't know if he's got a knock or if he just doesn't run enough. So many stories kicking about the now with Sean Byrne. I don't know what the script is. But there is enough cover. You know, like if Ross Matthews was to get injured through the week, he could easily change the shape a little bit, put another defender in and put Doherty into the midfield, and he's got an option there, a match fit option if he needs it. Do you know what I mean? And then he's got the option of bringing on Byrne for 20 minutes or so at the end of the game, trying to get a bit of game into him for the next week or whatever if he needs to. There are other options. But the problem he's got now is that there are no other options that can play up front that haven't been not playing football for weeks. Do you know what I mean? Like, the only players that he's rotated really in any way, shape or form has been the defence. So he's got all these players, even Liam Dick that's on the bench, and yeah, he's not played in a couple of weeks, but he's not going to have lost all of his sharpness straight away. Do you know what I mean? He could easily come back in. Murray could come back in. All the game readiness he has in reserve is in defence. It's like he's nothing up front at all, other than an Aidan Connolly who, again, ran himself into the ground yesterday, but looked like a player that hadn't played football in months, because he made, and not even mistakes, just, you know, the ball bouncing off of him, or there was one point he bodied Easton out the way, like the two of them just ran into each other, and that just smacks of not playing regularly enough. Do you know what I mean? And let's make no bones about it, Aidan Connolly's gone in the summer. There's no way he's hanging about to sit on the bench for us. He's gone in the summer, and I think it's a massive loss.
I think so too. I think the other thing as well, and again, we talked about it where, like, well, we played one on Saturday, in my opinion. We're not really playing wingers, so you've got this thing, but he looks really good up front. He looks decent.
Yeah.
And we're really dragging this point out, but you're saying there about it not doing it with your forwards is it's kind of bored. It's causing an issue. I always think it's the easiest place to do it.
Yeah.
Because with anybody further back, you've got a real issue around tactical discipline and positional awareness. Like, as you said there, and I agree with you completely. Like, Lewis Gibson, when he's getting minutes, sometimes it's on the left, and sometimes it's on the right, and sometimes he's a wing back, and sometimes he's a winger, and it's incredibly difficult to do. And one of the huge benefits of playing this effectively the same 11 every week is everybody learns their positions and everybody knows where their teammates are. But your strikers shouldn't need to worry about that as much. Like, it's the easiest one to just swap it. I've said this before. I'm surprised, particularly teams with bigger squads, don't deliberately set out at the start of a game to say, we're making a half-time sub. Like, you're getting 45 minutes as a number 9, knock your pan in, and then you're getting the second half. And just have that as a deliberate thing, especially when you use two strikers. Now, I think, given the kind of style of forwards we've got, it's maybe not as easy a thing to do.
It's not cut and dry.
But you've got. I think, as I say, the thing I find most surprising is because it's so much based on running. So, like, the starting 11 makes so much sense when you look at it, particularly when it was Pollock. You look at it and you're like, right, those two guys are starting because the amount of running they'll give you versus the guys who are on the bench. And then the running runs out, and he doesn't change it. You think, what's the logic in it?
There's a Callum Smith hole shape.
Callum Smith would be a dream in this.
Yeah,
team.
I mean, even Jack Hamilton as well. Like, just the effort that he puts in and just being able to get himself about the pitch. It's clear that, like, where those two fit, I think it would be very different situation.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, you can only work with the hand that you've got, and it's. I fully agree about the point about Gullen, though. I think that just yesterday it just turned into a bit of a, like, really, how much longer can you drag this out? He's run himself into the ground, and there's no more room to really work for it. Why not have that so that you can have someone like even Nate Marsh coming on and just being able to chase it down? I can fully understand why he's kept him on, though, because he was doing such a good job and he was getting himself about so well.
I was going to say the set pieces as well is probably the one thing that skews the Gullen of it all. Like, Gullen might be dying, but he can still take a great corner, and he might be falling over, but he can still whip a ball into the box. Do you know what I mean? It's that what he offers you is more than just the running. And when the running runs out, I think Gullen's still got more to offer. But I agree with the overriding point, and it certainly was the case with Pollock, because when the running ran out, there wasn't a lot else, to be fair, because that was Pollock's strength, absolutely, was the running. And yeah, it's just a really frustrating day watching Aidan Connolly and looking at him and thinking, just what could have been, like,
just really good.
Yeah. I really like him. I'm gutted he's going, and he is going. Like, there's no doubt.
I think at the end of the season, if we don't make the playoffs, I don't think it's going to be that game on Saturday that defines it. I think that, like, there's going to be
not even close.
Yeah, it's one of those ones.
It's the first quarter.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And then again, more recently, that Queen's Park game is obviously that's the outlier.
True.
Yeah.
And again, I think it's worth saying, like, Airdrie are decent. Airdrie are good.
Yeah.
They're Barry Robson said it many a time, and I agree with them completely. They are in a false position. I think they are probably the 6th or 7th best team in the division.
Yeah, 100%.
And with that in mind, a 1-1 draw is not a bad result anyway. Right, have we avoided talking about this for long enough? We have the mess to discuss.
Oh man, I feel so bad for him.
The next kind of line item on my notes for about half an hour, and I chalk them off as we go, and I was like, I don't want to talk about this.
He was another one trying so hard, hard, because there was a bit, maybe a few minutes before, I think it was, where he had a decent shot, and then it came back to him, and he tried to shoot again, and it was like, you don't need to do that. Like, you're now just trying too hard, and then just use your left foot, Scott.
Yeah.
So destroying.
I don't know. Like, can someone? It looks worse than I thought it did, and I thought it was pretty bad at the time. Robbie, do you agree with Blair? I think he's taking that on his right foot, and he should have just hit it with his left.
Yeah, I think so. Look, it's just really unfortunate. The goal is gaping, and he's got all of that, like, facing the south hand, left hand side to aim at, and you're just expecting the net to bilge and people chucking themselves over seats and going absolutely tonto. You feel for him because he's such a good guy as well, and he obviously he'll know himself, like, how. I'd imagine they'll get updates about the scores, whether it's from the crowd or whether it's from the bench or just where it's at. And they'll know that Thistle are 2-0 down at that point and that this is a big opportunity. Again, it's one of those ones where I know it's a trite point, but if he could do it 100 times over, the ball's probably going to end up 99 times. It's heading up the back of the net. It's just really unfortunate because of the way that it lands. It's like almost between his feet, kind of bobbles up as well at the same time. And just to say at the end of the game, I think it was really good the number of people, like, he came on to Twitter and he's obviously apologised. I think I saw 2 accounts that were critical of him. One of them's a sort of faceless fan account, and the other was another person saying that they were no example for a young kid. Like, why are you criticising him for it? Like, let's be honest, it's absolute fucking nonsense. Like, the guy knocks his pan in, week out for the club, and you're commenting about where's the photos of the skipper. And I'm glad that they deleted the post, because it's just, it's nonsense.
Just for anybody who missed that, there was a vague. So Scott Brown at the end of the game just disappeared down the tunnel. Quite clearly, because he was furious, and he was visibly furious with himself. Yeah, there was a vague kind of allusion towards criticism for doing that, which is just as you say, complete nonsense.
Yeah.
Great footwork for Aidan Connolly too, in the build-up. Oh man, and it just...
That's another one. Sorry, while we're kind of reforming the Aidan Connolly fan club, getting the shot away. Oh. Don't actually have that many players who'll do that. Like that, I think is a really undervalued thing. Is just shooting, because actually he's under a bit of pressure. He gets it ball out from under his feet, and he puts it far too close to the goalkeeper for him to score. But that's where the chance comes from.
Yeah.
He's not trying to shuffle it sideways to kind of create the perfect chance. He's just gone, nah, hit it. And then the keeper can't get enough.
It starts with Brown as well. It's one of them when you actually go back far enough, because the ball kind of is in the midfield, but Brown plays the pass to Easton inside to Connolly, gets the shot away. Brown's just kept running.
It's a great run.
And it's one of them. If he scores it, you go, oh, well worked. So well worked. He started the move, he finished the move. And he throws his right boot at it. And it's like somewhere between a toe poke and a stab with his studs. And if he just wraps his left foot around it. Oh, man.
I don't know if he's worried about the goalkeeper being too close for him to just kind of hit it with his left. But I mean, not to pile on, it's not even close. Like, it's not like it runs like cuts off the post. He's actually like if that was a defender, you'd be like, well done. Like, you've really done well to get that as far away from the goal as you have. Like, it's so but
it's coming across the way, isn't he?
Aye. It just like that's football. Like, that's all that is. There's nothing further to be drawn from that.
No.
Again, apart from the fact we're trying to fill podcast time.
If he scores next week, let's be honest, if he gets a winner next week, then nobody's going to be remembering that.
Oh, man. That Dundee United goal, he's got credit in the bank for a long time to come.
Just retired.
He's still in credit.
It would have been.
And it's the reason that we beat Airdrie this season as well. He got the winner in the last game against
and then straight after it, there's the Connolly chance, the short goal kick. And Connolly manages to kind of nick it off of him, but again, it just bounces away from him.
Yeah, just one of those.
Such a frustrating afternoon.
That's another one of those things, though, that's like actually a much tougher chance than it sounds like it should be. You know, if you read that in a text update, like, you know, the goalkeeper has played a short pass and Aidan Connolly robs the defender. But like, how is he? It's really difficult because the ball's there. Like, remember?
What did you say? We had 15 chances yesterday.
15 shots.
Aidan Connolly must have had about 4 of them.
That's good. It's the value of shoot.
Yeah.
But aye. Then there is. He also has another chance, which I can't decide. I get a little bit like that Fordyce one. I can't decide if it's like unbelievably good that he's managed to get as much on it as he has, or if it's a case of, well, once you've managed to get that much on it, should you be getting it for
you've got to go on target.
So the kind of cross comes in, and it's, I think because it's a kind of flying volley that you start thinking like, oh, could they have done better than that? But I think you're exactly right. I think it's behind them. I don't think he's got any opportunity to header it because his body's ahead of the ball. So he has to try and just get his foot to it, and does get his foot to it.
Yeah. And the fact that he's sort of like falling backwards with it as well makes it. He's always going to be lifting it up above the goal, unfortunately. But yeah,
it's just that kind of final half hour, maybe, We actually ended up glossing over it in the end. The boy that hits the bar for kind of 25 yards obviously would have been a real kind of... But, like, would have been a kind of sucker
kind of
punch.
top of the bar, though, and it was never going in, like...
Yeah, Josh Ray
was a beauty.
I was.
Nah.
But kind of that, other than that, which is a bit like saying Josh Mullen's assist doesn't count, other than you hitting the bar for 25 yards, then it didn't. But like that half-hour period, the last half hour of the game, was... I don't really know what I mean by this, but it was almost like watching a different Rovers team. I watched a Rovers team from a different season. Like, we've not really done that this season. At any point. Actually just had, like...
relentless.
Lots of attacking players, all passing the ball amongst each other, building up pressure, and getting shots away at the end of it. And it's actually, it's remarkable that didn't then result in a goal. How often this season have we had no shots, or a free kick, or a penalty?
Even, like, we completely neglect to mention the fact that, like, Stevenson was free in the box for a shot that goes past the post. Like, you're glossing over.
That was a great ball for Mullen as well.
Again. But yeah, I think as a fan, it's what you want to see. And you always hope to go along to games and sort of... Because if it's one of those ones where if you do hit the net with a few of them, then you're really, like, straight away you're looking comfortable, like 3 or 4 goal victory. And I think we were very unfortunate that we didn't come away with all 3 points by the end when you look at sort of the weight of the chances. Because Airdrie, I mean, they did have the ball in the back of the net. They've obviously had after the whistle from great call by Ryan and then hit the bar. But then the lion's share of the chances were from Rovers. Airdrie were still a threat going forward. We always knew that they would be. But yeah, it's... Barry Robson, interestingly, talking about how if it was a boxing match, it would have been stopped. Just in his interview after.
I like that more than XG.
Yeah,
just say that.
Aye, that's fine.
Better.
We're simple people, Barry.
Make the same point. That's better. Yeah. And actually, I don't know if I would necessarily go that far, but certainly, as you say, the way what you said there, the weight of the chances. Like, obviously, the Brown one is the big one, but you could put together a highlights package probably of like 8 or 9 games this season, and we'll have won 3 or 4 of them, and not have that many chances or chances of that quality in it. It's just, again, that's football. Doesn't always go for you, but.
By the way, that Easton miss
watching it
just after half time is another such a good chance. Like, he's got the whole goal in front of him.
I say that there's 4 or 5 chances in there in that game yesterday that in a lot of other games this season we'd have been talking about them as the chance.
Yeah,
like that's the chance we had, and to do something in that game, and we had a lot of them. And to an extent, I think it's ring rustiness for some of the... What a boxing analogies in this episode. Kind of ring rustiness there. And at other points, I think it's bad luck, and it's whatever. Football incidents not quite going your way, but I took quite a lot of confidence from it, if I'm honest with you. Quite a lot of optimism.
Same.
Because you can't miss chances without having chances. And that is having chances and missing them is a hell of a lot better than not having chances, as far as I'm concerned.
If we're going to make the playoffs, playing like that is definitely the way to get us there.
But it's that infuriating point of the season where if we do fall short, you're still going to be going into next season like, oh, we ended last season so strongly, and you never know how you're going to start a campaign. I mean, you would have said that this season you would hope that we would have started a campaign very, very strongly. We didn't at all. Quite the opposite. But yeah, it gives you a lot of cause for optimism. I'm just really intrigued to see how the next few weeks goes.
Well, on that point, we'll not really belabor the point on this because we've got a whole pre-match podcast to come, but I do want to do a quick status update, because to be fair, this will change across the course of the week, certainly will for me anyway. In the pre-match, I kind of bullied everybody into putting numbers on their chances. So we were 3 points behind Thistle with 4 games to go, And I think a little bit kind of against expectations. I don't think many people thought that Accies would go back-to-back away wins and beat Thistle on Saturday. So we've gone from, as I say, 3 points behind with 4 games to go to 2 points behind with 3 games to go. Blair, we'll start with you because you on Thursday night said that you were about 10 to 15% on the Rovers' chances of making 4th. Where are you now? How far has the dial moved, if at all?
A lot. And the reason that it's moved a lot is because of the reason that it was so low. So what I said on Thursday was I was 10, 15%, not because I didn't think we'd pick up the points, but because I didn't think Partick would drop the points. And, that's rotten for them. That's 2 games in the bounds. And my kind of argument was, and we talked about it actually on Thursday, was that it would be like I was expecting them to come out and have a response. Having lost to Airdrie, they were going to, Hamilton, they were going to take them on, they were going to have a response, and they would kind of blow them away, and then we would all finish Saturday night going, not a chance, it's not going to happen. And actually, they've thrown the door wide open. So I'm kind of 30, 40 maybe now, actually. I think it's creeping up more from the point of view that I still think we'll do what we were going to do, but I'm not convinced they're going to do what I thought they were going to do.
Interesting. Robbie, you weren't on the pre-match. I don't know if you want to tell us what your answer would have been prior to Saturday, but more importantly, where are you now?
Yeah, I was probably sitting about similar to what Graham said. I feel like with it now, I'm probably about 75% no, 25% yes, I would say. I feel like the way that the fixtures are coming about, Falkirk are obviously next weekend. I feel like we can go to Falkirk and we can still get a result. It's going to be a very tough game, don't get me wrong. We got absolutely scudded there early in the season, but then as well, at the same time, I think go there and get a win. If they've got a full house, the expectation on their fans, we've seen it before with games where you turn up and a lot of people just think that you're going to win. The one that always jumps out to me was the cup final against Hamilton at the Falkirk Stadium, where a lot of people just turned up, thought that it was just going to be a big party, and we got a bit of a shock that day. Dunfermline are a bunch of shite bags, so I really cannot see them doing any favours for us whatsoever. Against Thistle, I feel the onus is really on us to be able to go on, because obviously if we win, and again, it's probably one where if we can get Ayr to do us I feel like if Ayr do us a favour on the Friday night, in a sense of they can keep the race for its second interest in, and we beat Falkirk. If we can push it down the road so that Falkirk need to beat Thistle, then that would make all the difference. But it's because the week after, again, Morton are going to be up for it anyway. I know that Dougie Emery's having a go at his players for saying that they're on the beach. They'll still want to try and finish 5th. There's no chance of Morton getting into the playoffs. As far as I'm concerned, I think that their race is run, but they'll still have that wee chip on their shoulder about us because they're just a diddy team, basically. I just looking down then after that, then you're going into the final day. If it is a race for second, I mean, Livy are pretty sort of certain is almost to get it. You'd really need Ayr to win on the Friday, this coming Friday, for it to keep going. Look, you're looking really far down the line. It might be that we lose next week and Thistle win, and then everyone's like, nah, it's game over. It's such a tough game to call how it's going to go. But this season, the way it's been so full of surprises. It's been ridiculous. And I feel like we've got to go up there and poop the party, basically. That's all we can do.
So I think if Thistle are going to finish 4th, I think they need to do it this weekend coming.
Mm-hmm.
Because I agree with you, Blair. I think it sounds dismissive, to be fair to say it, particularly on a Rovers podcast, but it feels like Thistle are going to throw it away more so than we are going to sort of smash them out the road, if you know what I mean?
It's theirs to lose.
100%.
And it's, I mean, like percentage-wise, I was at 25% previously. I think I'm up to about 40%. And it almost seems quite funny to be like, well, we drew at home with the team bottom of the league, and that's pushing the numbers up. But it really, I did not have any expectation that Thistle would.
They should be tanking Ackies. And
Exactly.
their fans, they must be absolutely terrified. They've spent so much in terms of, like, you hear what's doing the rounds, and you hear sort of from pretty credible sources in terms of how much they've spent. They've got a documentary crew following them about, going to games. Brian Graham picking the interviews that he wants to do and the ones that he doesn't want to do when they lose matches. Blair, you
That's
very
horrific.
rightfully raised that point.
Absolutely horrific.
Mark Wilson out there. It's theirs to lose. All the pressure's on them, as far as I can see. That's the key point. Like,
this is the
we
thing,
were
so
8 points behind them, and I think at two different stages, according to our good friend who's a Falkirk fan that listens to this podcast, who has rightfully pointed that out, at different stages they've been 8 points ahead of us. They've spent a lot of money on players, a lot of expectancy that Brian Graham's going to be the all singing, all dancing manager, and a lot of disrepute as well behind the scenes with what's going on with them. So,
so I'd said previously that I was looking at it as 2 sets of 2 games, and that if after the next 2 the gap was still 3 points, I think that would tip it into our favour. Now, the gap's already down to 2, and this is the thing. Given that we have to go to Falkirk and they've got Dunfermline, if they can't improve that position, either because we both get beat, like if they get beat by Dunfermline, or even if they beat Dunfermline but we go and beat Falkirk, I don't think they've got it. I don't think they've got the...
I think if you're offering any situation where of any of the situations, you would take a win for both teams next Saturday. Because
I completely disagree. I'd take a loss for both teams. I think a loss for them would be so much more damaging than a loss would be for us. Because I cannot see, to squeeze in one more boxing metaphor, if, as I say, that gap is still 2 points, I cannot see them hauling themselves off the canvas and doing what they need to do against Falkirk and Livingston, having failed to do it against Hamilton and Dunfermline. And I think they basically need to go and smash Dunfermline at the weekend and effectively put us to bed. Because I don't, even if the team's got nothing to play for, I don't think they can do it in the last 2 if they've not basically already done it.
Yeah.
The ideal scenario for us right now is Ayr beat Livingston on Friday night.
Yeah.
Which means that the race for second is still on, which keeps Livingston basically needing to win games. It means that Falkirk need a point to win the league, which means that a draw suits them, nerves kick in, there's every chance we can get in and out of Falkirk with a point. And then for me, it doesn't matter what they do, what Partick do against Dunfermline. Let's say Partick win against Dunfermline. They've still got Falkirk to play and Livingston to play. And we've got Morton, which I said already is a tough ask. Yeah. And then Queen's Park on the last day. And it's that thing of when you line it up, ultimately, we just have to come out of this with one more win than they have in all of this for it to matter. Yeah. And actually, like Duncan says, I think when the pressure's on, I don't see them... to be fair, I'm not entirely convinced we'll step up when the pressure is on, but I'm less convinced they will.
But it's a story across the season, and you've got to remember where we've been and where we were at
100%.
Before. And Barry Robson's completely right to call it. He's loving it in his interviews at the moment. I know that you didn't listen to this, Blair, but he's given it the... when I came into the club, all the chatter was about relegation. And look where we're at now. And he's absolutely within his rights to do it. You might not agree with how we've been playing some of our style. To be honest, I like the way that we've been playing. I feel like we're a lot more entertaining and enjoyable to watch because we've been, to this point, outside maybe a couple of games. And again, this could obviously change going forward. We've been really resolute at the back. We seem to have found our groove. I'd just be so fitting if we could get someone like Lewis Vaughan or a Ross Matthews goal to put the champagne back on ice. Just good McGlynn lads to do it.
See, for the beauty of it all for me is that, see, going into last season, at this point, there was loads of pressure on us
Yeah.
because we were still within a sniff of the league and the pressure was kind of off as far as the title run was concerned. Nobody expected us to do it. But we'd gone that far, we'd got so close that when we got to the playoffs, pressure was on. You're expected to perform. Now, right now, I don't think anyone expects us to make the playoffs. It would be good if we could, and there's a chance, and we'll keep going until it's over. But there's no weight of expectation. It's not in our hands. We could win every game between now and the end of the season and still not make the playoffs. We need another team to slip up. And so, for me, there's no pressure on our team to make the playoffs. If they get it, great. If they don't, so be it. If they make the playoffs, there is zero expectation that we're going to get past the first round of the playoffs.
Yeah.
If we make it past the first round of the playoffs, there is zero expectations we'll make it past. And it's that thing of, for me, it's the best way to go in a playoff scenario where you're not the team that everyone's thinking they should do this, they should make this, they should win this. And actually, we've nothing to lose.
Yeah.
And that freedom to just go and play, like, see what happens, boys. You've nothing to lose.
I would also.
I'm gonna call us there because we're eating into all of our preview stuff, and yeah, and also I'm worried that my 40% is already feeling light to me, and I need to stop this before it reaches 51. Getting carried away. Right, thank you, everybody, for listening. Thank you, gents, for joining me. And thank you once again to Wraith Stats on Twitter, whose work I stole when I was putting the intro together there. Just like really, really good. Like, exactly what a stats account should be. Really interesting stuff. And
They're brilliant.
Completely faceless, which is always good.
Not me slaughtering face accounts as well earlier on. But, you know, this one I'm kind of in favour with. But, I mean, look, to be fair, I'll give the other guy as well. It's just, I can understand why you've deleted it. It's frustrating, but at the same time, like, it's still, like, I did feel it was just a wee bit too far in terms of being out of line, like, just at that. But again.
Well, I mean, not to labour the point, but it's supposed to be a fan page. Try supporting somebody. Right, we will be back later in the week. We'll look forward in even more detail, I imagine, to this very kind of intriguing trip to Falkirk and everything else that it might be.
Anyway.
635 tickets, I think they've given us. So, what, one half of the away stand? Always nice to have the opportunity to spoil a party. Done it before.
15 of us in hospitality as well to top those numbers up.
Are you in hospitality, boy? You never mentioned that. Right, let's leave that there. We'll be back later in the week. We'll speak to you then. Thank you. Goodbye.